Okay, I want to teach a very powerful persuasion. I don't know if you call it a tactic, trick, technique, whatever you want to call it, for writing your sales letters. This would also apply to emails and anything else you do, but it's a very powerful way to build credibility and believability in your sales, any of your sales materials. But for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to say sales letters because that's what the examples I'm going to give you are all from a sales letter I wrote. And this is this idea of every time you make a claim, and this is especially true in your bullet points, whenever you make a claim, and in your headlines and everything else when possible, put a condition on these claims. So, and by condition, I mean, you're not saying 100% something's going to happen. You're just saying that if you do things right, this is what should happen. And it's a very subtle thing, and it's a lot of, if you ever see like a hyped up sales letter and all that, it's not doing this. It's usually coming right out and just, saying this is what's going to happen, blah, 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 guaranteed. No, there's nothing guaranteed. There's no guaranteed benefit something's going to happen. This is it's a lesson I learned actually in an interview that the great Clayton Makepeace, he interviewed the great Gary Bencivenga many years ago. And you can read this on MakepeaceTotalPackage.com if you look for it. Where Gary talked about he was working for this ad agency. He was one of the partners in it. I think he was like the copy chief there or whatever. And his, I forget the guy's name. I think it was Bob Rosenthal or something like that. Don't quote me on that. But whoever his business partner was had written an ad that the headline was, "Why the price of silver may rise steeply." And Gary was like, this makes me uncomfortable. This should be more forthright. Why don't we just come out and say why the price of silver will rise steeply? One word change. And they tested it and it lost by I think like 200% or something to, may rise steeply. May being that condition that he put on the claim, which makes it far more believable. There's also I believe it's in Tested Advertising Methods. John Caples, he was selling some books for auto mechanics. How to Fix Any Car was the headline. And he realized he wasn't getting the sales he wanted, and he went and talked to some mechanics, and they're saying, well, not any car, can we really fix any car? And I believe Gary Bencivenga even talks about this in his farewell seminar. He realized that, it doesn't really sound believable because these mechanics are smart people and they know they can't fix any car. So I think he changed it to almost any car, and then sales went up and all that. So those are a couple examples, but for some real life examples, I'm going to pull up, you're not going to be able to see it because I'm not doing a screen share thing. My grasp of technology is just not there yet. I'm going to read some bullets from a sales letter I recently wrote selling my affiliate launch Copynomicon book. And I did this in a lot of the bullets. And I do this in a lot of my bullets and in a lot of my ads, but this is the more recent one. So here's a bullet, for example. An old selling strategy that makes it almost neurologically impossible for people to delete your launch and affiliate emails before opening them. I say almost neurologically impossible because can I really say it's neurologically impossible? I don't think anything's impossible in that sense. So it sounds more believable when I say almost neurologically impossible. It's just one word. And this isn't something you necessarily look at tactically. I think if you just start doing this consciously, you'll just understand it. This will make it more believable. That's the principle I'm going on here, is how can I make things more believable? Well, it's by being brutally honest with them and being completely honest. I can't say for sure neurologically impossible. I mean, I know there's neurology involved in this, but if I come out and just say it, it has, I believe, less believability when I say almost. Another example. An unorthodox way to make a killing selling a product you know nothing about and have not even read the sales page for. This is something that, it's kind of a weird claim. So after that, I say, believe it or not, this is one of the fastest, easiest, most ethical ways to create quick sales I've ever used. Plus, it usually only takes a few minutes to write emails to do it. So notice I said believe it or not, which helps make anything you say after that more believable. It's just the way it goes. And then I say usually only takes a few minutes. So I'm not going to say it always takes only, because this particular secret inside actually may take somebody a few minutes. It may take someone an hour or two. Just depends on who they are, what they are, and what they know. But that's my whole point. I'm putting conditions on these claims. Here's another one. A mental trick used by one of the world's biggest e-commerce sites that creates a feeding frenzy of buying activity during product launch and affiliate campaigns. Do it correctly, and it can create an overwhelming need in your list to buy products they didn't even necessarily want. In this case, do it correctly. Qualifies the rest of the claim. I'm saying if you do it correctly, this is what will happen. And if I leave that out, I'm not saying it wouldn't be a powerful bullet, but it wouldn't have that believability and credibility built into it. I'm going to close this sales letter real quick. Get to the point here. So my point is you want to put a condition on your claims as much as you possibly can. And not do it tactically, not say, oh, well, Ben says put believe it or not before it, or do it right and all that. No, my point is make it sound normal, like it's a normal conversation. But take off that edge of this is definitely going to happen by just qualifying things. This is why Gary Halbert's, if you do X, then this letter will show you how. It has a built-in belief structure. And you can read about this in Gene Schwartz's Breakthrough Advertising. The if-then just creates an automatic, this by the way it's structured, makes it more believable, whatever your claim is, because it's inherently honest. And whenever you put an if, a condition on something, it makes it automatically more honest, because you cannot guarantee somebody any kind of result anyway. But if you put if, it actually, like a reasonable person, and that's who I like to sell to persons, reasonable people, understands that. It also, I'm cheating here. I'm looking at some notes here. So I want to make sure I get all this in. It also, not only does it make things more credible by its very structure, it removes any trace of hype. And, despite what these idiots in the internet marketing world think, oh, hype sells. No, it doesn't. I mean, hyperbole does, but it has to be done in a way that's believable. Otherwise, you're only getting like the bottom of the barrel hyper buyers and all that, and they're like the worst people to go after. There's 2 to 5 times at least more skeptical buyers out there in most markets I've ever seen, at least, than there are hyper buyers. So why not structure everything to go after the 2 to 5, twice as many as 5 times more people who are skeptical. I'm going to put everything toward that. And by putting conditions on your claims the way I'm talking about, you're going to appeal to them. You probably won't appeal to the hyper buyers too much, but you'll still get some of them anyway because they're hyper buyers. You're appeasing both sides of your prospect's brain. Now remember, every decision somebody makes is based on emotion. And this is something a lot of people think, well, I don't base anything on emotion. Yes, you do. I mean, everybody does. In fact, there's even been studies done and things like that showing that even like people who have been in accidents or by birth, they just don't have the ability, like they don't have the emotional side of their brain working properly. They have a hard time making a decision to do anything. So a buying decision is emotional, but people back up that emotional decision with logic. I mean, this is a very old school copywriting principle. There's nothing new about this, but you got to remember, you want to appease both sides of the brain. You want to appease the drooling emotional side, but then you also have to appease the rational side that wants to say, oh, hold on a second. We don't want to look stupid by buying this and blah, 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 the doubting side. Well, you do that by putting conditions on all these claims. You're going to have less compliance hassles. Now think about this, especially if you're in the financial or the health niches or anything like that. You can be very careful the kind of claims you make. I mean, there's entire legal departments at, for example, Agora Financial, because they can only say certain things and you can't imply certain things. And anyone who sells supplements and is serious about it knows that this is going on, that you have to appease the compliance things, and which is also just good. That's just good advertising anyway. I mean, one way to actually do this, and this is a little bit of a tangent, is to make your compliance standards more strict than the government's. So you'll never really have to worry about it. But the point is, by doing this, you're actually being more compliant because you're taking off that edge of the claim. And I'm not going to get into the legal stuff here. I'm just saying, by its very nature, by putting conditions on everything, you're probably going to be a lot safer. And then finally, this is pure honesty. I think all marketing should be done out of honesty. And sometimes that means saying things that some would look at and say, well, that's going to hurt your sales. No. A lot of times being brutally honest is the way to go. And I've done whole podcasts and all that. But that's what this is. By putting conditions on things, you are being completely honest. If this, do this right instead of just coming out and saying what's going to happen. So some things to think about. In some ways, I consider this one of the most powerful copywriting, just as far as mechanical skills of copywriting that you can learn is putting a condition on as many of your claims as possible. Do that, see what happens until it becomes a part of just how you write. Like, I don't think about it anymore. I just write like that. And I think when you get to that point, you're going to find your copy, your sales letter copy, your email copy, any other kind of claims you make and any other type of marketing you do, I think you're going to find they're more believable and that you get more sales as a result.